Hello friends, welcome back to Inside Success. Today I'm joined by Adam Gibson, of the CEO of 17 Oranges. From the company name, you may think this man owns a boutique greengrocers with limited stock.
True.
But no, in fact, he is trying to help transform your digital experience. Is that a good way of putting it?
That's a fair way of putting it, yeah.
That's quite nice.
Absolutely, yeah. I like the greengrocers as well.
And you like the greengrocers part. Okay. Yeah. So, how do I know you? So, best way of putting it, we randomly live in the same street.
Yep.
We've always said hello to each other when passing.
Always been polite.
Always been polite, as neighbours do, until one day we randomly met on a dog walk, and it's a dog walk, not of dogging or anything along those lines.
Not around here.
Not around here, but we were on the country lanes, which was random. And as always, I'm in work mode. So the first thing I asked you was, what do you do for a job? Mm-hmm. And if I remember right, your terminology was that you were a CTO in HR and recruitment technologies.
Yeah, close enough.
I think that's roughly what you said to me.
Close enough, yeah.
And then you asked me what I did, and then you tried running away really quickly.
Trying to escape work, don't we?
Trying to escape work, and then you run into a recruiter.
I'm on a dog walk.
I'm on a dog walk. I don't want someone selling me recruitment services. Yeah. So let's go straight into it. So Adam, about your current business, 17 Oranges. What I'd like to know is what you do, how you do it and why, and the why can't be a financial gain.
Right, okay, that's pretty clear. So 17 came together to offer services around the consultancy piece, digital transformation.
Was that mainly in recruitment and HR initially?
So recruitment, exec search, most of the guys inside the organisation have sort of serious sort of tenure in that space. We've lived in it, so we understand it from an operational and delivery point of view. So it makes good sense for us to sit in that space. But we do have other clients in manufacturing, one in retail, and online platforms as well. We've worked
sports
with
platforms. We've got one of
them.
them.
We've got a sports platform. We've got two actually. We've got a venture sports platform and a football rewards platform we've worked with in the past.
Okay.
So yeah, it's quite diverse for us.
Okay. So that's one part of it. Mm-hmm. And what was the other two pieces?
So we've got the second part is we've got local developers as well. So we've worked with clients to build out products for those guys. Integrations for those guys and services for those guys as well. So we typically get guys come up with, I've got this fantastic idea. I want to see what it looks like from a product point of view. And it's typically the conversation, do you know, I want to build an app. I've got a really cool idea. And it's like, it's going to cost me 20 grand and we're off the market. It's like, yeah, around that, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
But then you've got to walk them through sort of what the whole model looks like for the development activities and the run scenarios as well. So we've put together blowing our own trumpet, a really sort of first-class development, architecture, knowledgeable team in the UK. And we've got some guys overseas as well. So, we help build product.
Okay. So how do you operate? How does it work? So if I was a customer coming to you with, say, an idea on an app, what's the kind of starting process for you as a business?
So it depends on the client at the end of the day and how they work. So our typical approach is we've developed this system where we call it sort of pens and crayons.
Okay.
So lots of guys and girls rock up with a massive PowerPoint slide deck, and you sit there and you go through some formal structure, and it can be overwhelming. I mean, especially for somebody who doesn't understand technology, they've got the vision and the entrepreneurial sort of spirit, and they know where they want to go. Yeah. They just don't know how to get it onto paper. And the last thing they need is someone sitting there being all formal and like this. So what we've tended to do is, it sounds really cheesy, but a big old roll piece of paper.
Yeah.
We give the guys and girls, here's a pen, here's a crayon, whatever it may be, and we map out their thought processes, be it the product or the solution they want to build, on that bit of paper. Normally with a cup of coffee and a donut.
Yeah.
And it's great because it sort of brings us all down a level to the right language, their language, and it helps me understand and the team understand what they're trying to get at, and it takes the pressure away from them. As well. So am I using the right words? Am I explaining myself clearly? And suddenly you end up after an hour or two with a fantastic long piece of paper with lots of scribbles all over it, capturing everything they've talked about. And that's lovely because you sit back at the end and go, actually, that's really credible. And you can see their face. It's like, I can actually articulate it now, which is cool.
So you're trying to humanise tech.
Yeah. There's lots of talk about sort of technology, sort of dumbing down the language to work with the client, I think it's the wrong thing to say. I mean, we all talk naturally and normally. Just be yourselves at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's worked for us. And it's worked for the clients we've got as well.
And how old is 17 Oranges?
Crumbs, we're in our third year.
Okay.
We're in our third year. So we've survived the first two, which is fantastic. Teams come together. Our operational practices are nice and maturing in the right direction. We're in that lovely sort of third year period where you're looking to scale, reach out, do new things as well. So yeah.
And the team is 8, did you say, at the moment?
We're 8. Yeah, we're 8 at the moment. Predominantly the UK. We're all home working. Or home working. We're technical nomads. Sounds posher. That's a better sell, isn't it? So we've got guys in the top of Scotland down to Dorset. We've recently recruited a guy who wants to work in the US. Okay. So he's over there for a bit. But we all come together online, obviously. So that's
You don't have to be anywhere to be everywhere now.
No, not at all. And actually, it's worked out really well for us. So I'm pretty pleased with that.
And why did 17 Oranges come about? What is your purpose, Adam?
What is my purpose? Oh, crumbs.
That's a good question, isn't it?
This is a therapy session.
This is therapy, yeah.
Yeah. Well, if I'm being honest and transparent, there's two things. One is that I've always had a burning and an itch to start our own organisation and to do things the way I want to do things. I've been super lucky in my career to work with some amazing people, some leadership, some mentors, etc. And they've helped mould me and grow me to what I am today. So 17 for me, emotionally, is me putting a spin on that with respect paid to the past, which I think is super cool. Coming outside of operational roles, CIO, CTO roles for large organisations into your own piece, I guess the second thing it's done is allowed me to reach out and it sounds weird, but bigger than what I was. Mm-hmm. So meet more diversity as far as people's concerned, look at new challenges, etc. Have an opportunity to go and play in different fields.
Yeah, okay.
And it's that, this is going to sound cheesy, but it's almost like that pioneering sort of thing. So I don't quite understand that, but going through their target operating model, I'm getting an idea. Oh, I really love that. Let's go and work together on that. So I guess it's the drive me in the first instance, and the second thing is let's go and explore, which is the drivers for it.
So I think from knowing you a period of time now, there's two things I picked up from I've talked before about your business. And one was when you're doing your hiring, you're as interested in what they can deliver as much as their own life and what they actually do outside of it. So it's not all about work. I think you said that to me before, that some of the people you hire very much say, unless they've actually got their own hobbies, life outside of work, you don't want them just being the coder, for example. Yeah, no,
I've had that for all my career. You need a break. Okay, what we do is it can be super enjoyable, but super intense as well. And you see guys and girls getting burnt out quite quickly. So I've always had it in every conversation, even 17 Oranges and other organisations I've worked for, is I want to understand that the individual can switch off, or at least have a mechanism to switch off and enjoy. For me, like the dog walking or the motorbikes or something like that, where you can just be in your own space. So that's super important.
So talking about the younger generation, let's flip back. Let's go back a few years to the Adam at school.
Oh my God.
So the podcast is about obviously people in business, longevity, and learning that nothing happens overnight and it's not a 5-minute path to success.
True.
What was the 16-year-old Adam like?
It's a question for my mother, really. What was the 16? Oh my word. Probably a handful. Ever ready bunny. I was always busy, always one way or another, doing something, thinking about something, could never sit still.
Were you academic?
No, not at all. And I'm not now, I don't think. I don't, in the traditional sense. I'm not academic in the traditional sense. I'm more of a doer, common sense, and get on with things. Never went to university sort of scenario. That wasn't for me.
So what was your dream job from coming out of school? What was in your head at the time? Not this. So I love the outdoors, and
And as growing up, you're influenced by what's around you, aren't you? Very strongly. So my parents had friends with farms, so I spent a lot of time in a farm and driving an old Land Rover, and it's really weird, reminiscing slightly, because you never really appreciate when you're in it. Does that make sense? It's like when you're doing it. So I for the first few years, I wanted to be a farmer. Yeah, I wanted to.
I see you like Clarkson.
Yeah, I'm getting there. But I love I just love the culture, and yeah, it just fits me. And then I wanted to be a vet, so I trained a little bit for my A levels. Went to work in the vets world for a bit, and that didn't quite work out. And I remember thinking, I love animals and I love all that piece, but coming back to the academic piece, it's like there's 7 years worth of training for that, and it's genuinely hard work to learn everything. And you're dealing with lives at the end of the day. So I took a decision. It's like, that's not for me. So yeah, I was geared for the outside and sort of animal practice.
So what then led you then suddenly from fixing animals and the farm and the outdoor life to finding your route into technology?
Serendipity, luck, I guess. I guess the how did I get into technology? So I bought my first house when I was 19, which meant I had to go and get a job. I was lucky enough to get a job with an engineering.
How old are you now? Just for the people at home.
49.
49.
Heading on to 50.
49.
Apparently I look 43.
Well, there you go.
But the camera won't tell me that.
Well, the camera says to me I look like 53 half the time now.
I don't care. I'm happy. Yeah, so I took on my first role, and so I had to get a job, obviously. So I got a local job working for an engineering organisation, and I ended up working in their design team. And part of that was building out some designs for what they were doing, but also a lot of math and calculations. And I remember being old enough that the first computer came into that office, and I remember.
What was it? Can you remember what it was?
It was a 486 DX2. So that was I do remember it explicitly. And I remember my boss at the time turning around and saying, "Adam, don't touch that. And if anyone needs to get to it, ask me or the guy who looks after the computers." And I thought, "Oh, I'm not sure about this." So typically in Adam's style, I went out and bought the same computer. And at the time, it was a lot of money for us.
I can imagine.
It was a proper investment. So I went off and did that. I learned all about it. And my crowning moment was being let loose on this thing in the office. And my boss at the time said, "Oh, I didn't know you could do that." And I was educating him, if that makes sense. And then I took it one stage further. It's like all these, and this is like pre-Excel to some extent. This is all these calculations you can do. We can automate that. It's like, so I sat down and worked out a small program that basically did all the automation for the calculations for them. And then we bought the company's first plotter, right? And it plotted something on a screen. And it was like, that's amazing. It was
revolutionary in their eyes.
Yeah. It was and this is what I started. It's like, that's a USP. The sales guys loved it because suddenly they're going into their pitches with not a piece of paper drawn out by hand. It was a piece of technology, and whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, it's like, oh, that's done on a computer. That must be right. So it gave them an edge.
This is pre-internet era as well.
Yeah, we were just tipping into the internet coming through. So it was this newfangled thing that was like, this is NASA. Right, this is NASA, from me, NASA. So that tipped me into the technology piece, and I ended up being moved out of the engineering team into effectively what would be a technology team now, and sitting that for a bit. So
as in a dark cupboard, one person, and that was it.
Yeah, dark cupboard, one cupboard to another cupboard. But it was, I think the crux of it was, and all my life has been the same, even when I was younger, is there's a problem over there, and it's like, well, maybe if I do this over here, I can solve it. And it doesn't matter if it's building houses or there's a better way of doing things potentially.
Yeah.
And technology was the enabler, the Lego box that allowed me to do a lot of these things. So that's how I got started in the world of tech.
So how did you then fall into recruitment? Which again, engineering to recruitment isn't a natural fit.
So the quick potted history is I worked for them for a number of years. Got to a point where I couldn't go any further. I was then headhunted to work for a development company in Cambridge. worked from those guys a little bit, and then was posted in the US. Spent a lot of time in the US growing those organisations, and that's operational technology, be it business as usual technology as well, which was fascinating at the time.
So what do you classify for what is business as usual? Give us a real simplified synopsis.
So bottom line technology. So what you run your business on.
Okay.
So it's
for your laptops or purely software.
Do you know from the pieces of wet string that go into your organisation, your homes, to the laptops you work on, to the pieces of software you utilise. So all these things that you enable your business with sort of naturally.
So your foundation stuff.
Yeah. So everything bottom line, cost of the business to make you operationally fit. There's a lot of that. Mm-hmm. So I got a lot of experience in doing in all those sort of services. And this is not sort of the transformational piece. This is like you buy lots of pieces and they kind of worked in silos. So I did that for a number of years, and then I got poached to work for another organisation in Cambridge that was building out in the telecoms world, mobile technology world. So they were building out new chipsets and sort of IP, etc. And I was super fortunate to join that organisation. They put me in a reasonably senior role.
Yeah.
And it was one of those roles where your head was above the parapet. So you're either going to get it shot or you're going to go for it. And typically you run. We grew that organisation and that went global. I mean, it was fantastic. I was working in Korea, in China, in Japan, in Europe. Spent a lot of my life in an aeroplane delivering technology and technology solutions around the world, which was, for me personally, it was a massive experience. You got to meet new cultures and look at things in a different way, if that makes sense. So hugely valuable for me as an individual. And then we got acquired by Motorola. Motorola said, there's a lovely piece of technology sitting in Cambridgeshire, deepest, darkest Cambridgeshire, that's servicing the organisation. They acquired them, and then I got sucked into the Motorola machine. Worked in M&A and all those bits and pieces. And then this was as mobile devices in Motorola was at its peak. Yeah. And it just started to crest, and we could see this cresting and coming down the end. So we got to the point where we were making a number of layoffs, naturally letting people go. I was letting my teams go. And I sat down with my VPO, reported into it. Probably time for me to go. I had a small team of, well, not small team, 90, 110 people. So we let these guys go. I said, well, actually, it's probably time for me to move on as well. Mm. And that was okay. That was a nice conversation, very professional. And I turned and said, well, I've never produced a CV. It's like I've never pulled this thing together, which is it's really interesting as to where we are now, because do you actually need a CV?
No, and I believe if, as we talk about personal representation, social media, let's be honest here, LinkedIn is your live document and CV. Mm-hmm. So as long as you're current on there, updating as you go, and you're sensible in what you're posting, you're going to get found, and people will have a very good understanding and interest in what you're doing. Yeah, if they want to.
No, that makes sense. And if you, for me, I love networking. I love people. Mm-hmm. So if you get connected to the right people and build those relationships, it just follows.
Correct.
So that's been super kind to me. Anyway, I got introduced to a exec search company. So Adam, go and talk to these guys over here. And I wanted to step away from technology and the silicon world and the mobile world. That's part of my life. And I wanted to try something new. So I looked at automotive, professional services, and I stayed away from retail, because retail just looked like a lot of hard work. So I met this exec search firm and met their CIO headhunter, had a really lovely conversation with them, and 3 weeks passed, and they said, well, look, we're a growing global brand. We could do with a bit of a support and assistance over here. Would you care to join us? And I'm like, well, that's interesting.
It's different.
It was different, yeah. And it was one of those things in life where I'd come from a really fast-paced startup, international role into a larger 60,000 enterprise business, very fast-paced again, and into professional services space, which has its own pace. It runs at a different. So when I looked at it on paper, I almost had that sort of knee-jerk, oh, is that right? Is that right for me? But I saw some mentors I've noticed. Adam, you asked for this, and actually it's really good for you. You've done this over here, go and do this over here. And actually it timed really nicely personally from a family point of view. So young kids growing up, not so much international travel. It kind of fits all the blocks. And it was lovely because it was a lovely brand, fantastic individuals in there.
And what was the company?
Odgers Berndsen. Fantastic brand, fantastic people.
I'll put my invoice in for the plug later. It's fine.
Yeah. And to be given the opportunity to work with them to help mature the technology stacks, etc. That's quite humble, actually. It was like, okay, that was a good.
So that leads on quite nicely. So we've gone dog walking. We've realised we're in the world of similar circles.
Yeah, I understand the circle.
Yours was very here. Mine is very there. Obviously, I went through the buyout of my business last year, and I came to you and said, Adam, I'm looking at a new CRM and a way of automating my business. And you probably looked at me and went, this is going to be hard work, and this might take forever. But no, luckily you said, okay, let's talk about it. And what we want to kind of touch on today, which is something that's obviously very IT led on a phrase, which is a SOT. And I'm going, what's a SOT, Adam? And then you've got its source of truth. Mm-hmm. And obviously, once you listen to that wording and you start sitting in other presentations about technology, source of truth word is used a lot.
Yeah.
So we go back to what you said about the taking a new customer with the pen and crayon and a massive bit of paper. It's exactly what you work with us.
Yeah, we did that. I remember. Yeah.
So you're not full of shit, and you're not lying about your processes, which is good. But for the purpose of people who have never heard the term source of truth, what is that to you, and what's the purpose of it for looking at what we're doing on technology?
Well, first off, we've got to cover off. It's like you got this out of me on several dog walks.
That's true. I had to build you up to the point.
You build me up. No, it's fantastic, actually. And it's super cool, actually, sort of working with you guys for a bit. So, source of truth. Oh, God, got me a bit of paper. Now you've got me talking about work, haven't you? I'd rather have just a natter. It's like sitting with friends.
Counselling's over. We're now into the hard stuff.
Yeah, it's the source of truth. So, there's a couple of things with it. One is that lots of organisations, as they grow organically, have multiple sources of information dotted around the business one way or another. Very historic in the way it is. A piece of technology, piece of information, piece of data in this area. And what you end up with is multiple sources of truth that's different truth across the business at the end of the day. And that can lead to challenges in terms of company growth, company understanding, and silos of teams and processes in firms. And it can start really small, but as you grow and scale as an organisation, it can actually really become quite systemic and quite problematic. So what we tend to look at, once we've mapped out once we understand your target operating model of business, and we map the technology as you understand it with the crayons, etc. underneath that, we start to understand where your sources of truth sit and how you can bring them together in one simple exercise and make it easily accessible, which is probably more important than anything else, to the individuals that work with the source of truth or the data, etc. So in a nutshell, it's the source of truth is where all your guys and girls go to and trust.
Deploy Recruitment Group provides fast and reliable recruitment across the UK and overseas. We source, screen and deliver quality skilled individuals to meet your business requirements. Using our extensive database, market knowledge, network and latest software, we provide access to specialised talent and address your industry's core challenges. Plan, supply and deliver safely. For more information, please visit our website, deployrecruit.com.
I'll put it from a business owner point of view, and I'll be perfectly honest about working with people in technology.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I won't swear this one. I hate it. I would have put another word
You can swear.
I fucking hate it, because all I see, as you go back to your conversation at the start, which was very much, I want to build an app, is the scenario. And they go, how much is that? And they go, oh, it's about 20 grand.
Yeah.
And then they go, that 20 grand then turns into 30 grand, into 40 grand, and then it turns into a bottomless pit. And by the time you got to the end of it, you hate the idea of even having an app in the first, it to finish with.
Yeah.
Because the processes has been,
burnt, aren't
you're
you?
burnt on it, and then you're going, well, how much more is it going to cost to change this later on? So I'll go to the scenario. We were looking for a brand new CRM, and the workflow process you went through us is very much, the source of truth for us was the new CRM. And then from the experience working with you and the crayons and everything else was, you then gave us the different elements and the different processes of what we wanted to achieve to feed into this one funnel. It was a good way of putting it. But it wasn't just that. You then gave us then the recommendations and the referrals on what actually made up that source of truth. So off the back of that, we then started working with 8x8, which is native to Bullhorn.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
We then looked at how our IT systems should be natively integrated with Bullhorn, and then actually looking at our IT provider, whether or not they are experienced within the Bullhorn ecosystem and knowledge of how to put it in there. Because for me personally, if we didn't go with the right partner on IT, who are not natively understanding CRMs and databases, that's going to start costing us money.
So I guess what I bring to the equation is I've walked that path many, many times. And I'm a great believer in keeping it simple as well. So in terms of your source of truth, yes, you've got one central CRM solution, which is going to act as your source of truth from a physicality point of view, your software point of view. But you've got every service and workflow built around that source of truth.
To create automations.
Yeah, to create automations, but also to simplify it for your internal customers, your employees at the end of the day, which is super, super important. And you do get, I mean, I've sat in front of enough people these days where it's very easy to have a conversation about technology and say, look, you want this and you want this and you want this and you want this. But actually, what's it actually mean to you as a business and what are you going to get out of it? Because I was taught very early in my career, you've got to be agnostic. There's no religion in technology. It's like you do what's right for the business. You make sure that the piece of software or the service or the integration is fit for purpose. And not a fancy of technology, because technologists can get really wrapped up in their own BS at some point. You want to be doing this and this because it's sort of super wicked and super cool. Well, actually, no.
Can I ask you, I think they want that to happen because they don't want to pay for it themselves and they'd rather have someone else try it to see if it fails.
What, from a technology point of view?
Yeah, so everything's so shiny, they go, I've got this brand new product, and they go, I think it'd be really good for your business. They don't want to pay for it, so they'd rather shove it in yours to cost you the bloody money to prove the point.
Yeah,
if it doesn't work, you go, I knew that wouldn't work.
Yeah, that's our...
Is that true?
To some extent, but I'd like to hope and like to think they're up front with you in that conversation.
Well, they're fucking not.
Yeah, well, can't possibly comment. There are some rogues out there.
And this is what I'm talking from an owner's point of view, where money is not unlimited.
Yeah.
The way of working could be a real failure and could really put the businesses under stress if the decision's made wrong.
Yes.
And I think that's where, not blowing smoke up your arse, is that you kept it really to the point and the common sense was put into the conversation rather than here's a new flashy gadget. I think that would really work well within this. It was taken to the strip back of, is it native to what you're buying as your source of truth? Yes or no? No. Yeah. Okay, well, is there an alternative within the ecosystem of, say, Bullhorn, which is what we went with, that is? I'll go and find that for you, which you did.
Tick.
Right.
Job done. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And what's lovely about the technology space now and the product space now is there's lots and lots of ecosystems and also partnership, shall we say, where you can leverage one product to another product to another product, and they all know each other from a relationship point of view as well. So that's easier than it's ever been.
Okay.
What I do get nervous about is we've had a couple of clients in the past where people have gone in there and said, right, okay, here's a system. They've shown them, and they've gone through the target operator model with them, and they said, right, okay, replace the whole lot. And suddenly they've delivered in System A, System B, System C, and there's no conversation about how these things work in harmony together. Because ultimately, you don't really care about the technology.
No.
It's just an enabler to your business. What you want is a result over here. And what I get nervous about, and I've been caught out about this in the past, is you go down this lovely journey of this is the next thing since sliced bread. But no one really explains to you in your early career that it's a chocolate teapot in that instance. No one's going to use it, no one's going to adopt it because it's not tied into your overall strategy. It's not part of your source of truth at the end of the day. It just sits there as an orphan piece of technology for 10 years and costing your business a small fortune. And then you go through the next stage where, especially if you go through evolutions of your business and you bring more people on board, it kind of it gets orphaned again, but everyone's too nervous to turn it off because it does something for John or Jill in another part of the business. So you can find businesses sort of collecting technology really, really quickly.
I think where we've done it badly ourselves in a period is that I'll see something shiny, I've done it myself. Lucky or not too big a value. But the point is that you buy it, and unless you can explain it to people within 5 minutes, people get very switched off. Or you bring in technologies which I've seen before, and it's given to the business, and they're expected just to run with it with absolutely no concept or context of why it works for them in the business.
Yeah, but that comes down to user adoption and your communication inside your organisation.
Yeah, but if we don't know what we're buying, how the hell are we meant to communicate it?
Yeah,
and we see that a lot.
Yeah, but it's like how you and I worked. If you strip it all the way back. So what's really interesting, you ask businesses to describe, especially what I've been really interested to watch in the last sort of 2 years. When you say, "Can you describe your business to me?" And maybe I'm not articulating well for 17, but it's what's your target operating model? Where are you heading towards, and how's that map against your operational space and your technology requirements? And you often find really bright entrepreneurial people with wonderful organisations, and it's kind of happening organically in the back of the head. So the challenge you then have from an operations technology point of view is how do you map that? How do you map that against someone? So again, going through this papers and cranes sort of exercise, it brings it all out, and you can formalise it in documentation afterwards, which then allows you to start articulating the technical requirements to the business, which should feel natural to the end consumer of the technology. So when you start communicating why you're doing the source of truth inside your organisation, it's like, oh, I get that, I understand that. It's linked into this of what we're doing in the business.
Yeah.
They won't care about or wish to understand why you're linking in your phone solutions or your some of your AI or some of your future P&L stuff. And that's not for now, but they'll understand why you're trying to work from a harmonious.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
From an organisation point of view, and then just as a side note, I've always learned that if you can make the process and the technology as simple as possible, and to your point, intuitive as possible, adoption just goes through the roof. If it feels natural to them. I have this phrase called "steal with pride."
Okay.
So if people are used to using Facebook, how they log on, or they're used to using Word or Excel or Microsoft, well, make it feel like Word or Microsoft Excel. They're just going to jump onto it and understand. And more importantly, they're not going to feel fear by experimenting and playing with it as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to break this, I'm going to do that. I don't quite know how to do this. Well, it kind of feels natural. Just
do it.
Just do it. And it's that kind of passive communication and passive education that really helps.
So I see a lot in a lot of the group chats I'm in with owners in different setups I'm involved in. And every other question is the question about, have you tried this database? How do you find it and how does it work? So from a owner perspective, going, okay, I'm with my current database, it's legacy, it needs updating. What's the first parts would you start with?
So not the database or technology. So what I've found over the years is it could be the adoption, and B, it could be the processes. So most databases do most things this day and age. And sometimes it's not the technology that's a challenge. It's the way that it's been delivered into the organisation and the way you have people working through it. And I've got this kind of saying, it's like, you'll walk into any firm and they'll say, oh, my CRM is shit, right? And what they want you to do is get you another CRM. From a red one to a blue one to a pink one to a green one, right? Okay. But if you don't get the processes right and the adoption right, you're just papering over the cracks. You're going to have the same conversation in 2 years' time and wasted a shitload of cash. So go back to roots. Understand, we call it the as is to be story. So how are you working today? And how's that affecting you today? Because you might find your current technology solution is actually fit for purpose. And you're maybe giving your technology supplier, your product supplier, a hard time when you should be looking inwards. And if you can get that all wrapped up, when you move into your next evolution and you feel confidence internally, then you'll make the right decisions, you'll ask the right questions. So the first thing is to look at how you operate as an organisation, not the technology. I don't care if I'm being I work in the technology world, but I don't care if it's red, blue, green or orange. It's just got to be right for you.
Yeah.
So let's understand you, and then we'll apply. And even better, if that current piece of technology in-house or out-house actually works for you and we can adjust you slightly, happy days. You've not bought any more technology.
No.
You may be enhancing it with other products, other services to look at how you use information differently or make slicker workflows or whatever it may be.
Automation and connectivity.
Yeah, absolutely. But look at the human element in the first instance.
Okay, so that's quite an interesting lead on to, you said the words AI earlier on. There's a lot of conversations going around LinkedIn and obviously in the market in general, in recruitment and the whole world about obviously ChatGPT and AI and how it's influencing how we're going to obviously look to recruit people and remove humans. What's your views on that?
Crumbs, that's a big, wide, open subject, isn't it?
Let's take it as recruitment for a point of view of how you find and how you're hired in the future.
I think it's going to be interesting to see sort of from a research point of view and from a documentation point of view and an education point of view. It's never been easier to pull information together using ChatGPT or other services. So you can look on the face of it very proficient very, very, very quickly. So I think you've got some challenges coming up seeing through that.
Okay.
So it's almost fake it till you make it. You can produce some, I'm sure ChatGPT can make documentation far, far better than I can. Mm-hmm. So you've got to see beneath that or behind it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you've got to find the individuals you're working with. In terms of the recruitment processes, then obviously the research element will be impacted in a positive way because I think you'll get there quicker. Okay. As far as that's concerned.
What I think we've found at the moment is that what's quite interesting is that, let's be fair, I've got teenage kids like yourself, and if I had it when I was younger to do my coursework, I'd be using it all day long to give me the right answers really quickly, or give me the steer or the right way to it without having to think. What we're finding as well is that people are now getting better at lying about their backgrounds, because obviously they can get created very quickly.
Yeah, but think of it from the different ways. It's like the next stage on from internet searching, isn't it, at the end of the day? So historically, dare I say it, with enough grey hair, if you wanted to go and research, I learning TCP/IP back in the day, it's a fucking great big book, right, literally, and you try and learn it and whatever.
Oh yeah, I remember the Cisco one, CCNA, CCIP, and
all that. And everybody now Googles it, and you get it that much quicker. ChatGPT is the next one on from that. But what it also does is it gives you the articulation of it as well. So rather than just researching it, you articulate it. Here's the articulation of it, and it puts you in a paragraph, or gives you some sense around it. So it's just a step in the current direction. In my head, that's the way it sits. And if you talk to my kids, and they're at university now, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the guys who are on the leading edge and using ChatGPT to help them with their coursework, fair play. They're mini entrepreneurs in the network. They're working the system, whatever. But it's catching up. They're writing technology to understand what's being produced by the individual creatively rather than ChatGPT or other services out there. And it'll never be perfect. It'll be a science it'll be an art rather than a science. But I kind of like that. It's that kind of tussle. And if we didn't have it, how would we push ourselves forward?
Yeah.
How would we change the next piece that's coming over.
So I had a good chat with some friend of mine who does a lot of rec to rec, and he said all these technologies are doing is those who are smarter than the others will get there quicker.
Yeah, but that's Darwin.
I appreciate that, but that's what I mean. So I see recruitment. Let's be honest, we're not brain surgeons. We are, a hell of a lot of us are purely how much more common sense have we got to the next person, and how can we find that way of the next talent quicker than the next.
Yeah.
And I believe if we can use a technology to do the grunt for us to then make the sensible decisions as a human to human perspective hiring,
Yeah.
brilliant.
Well, it's something about the researchers. So, I mean, historically, if you take it back a few years, you had banks and banks of really bright people doing lots of research, books, contacts, black books back in the day, then the internet, then LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely, that's all getting automated in one way or another. It still needs someone on the other end to make sense of it at this point in time. So, from a logistics and grunt piece, absolutely, it's still on that evolution, without doubt.
Okay. So what's the, other than AI and ChatGPT and automation, what do you see as the next big thing within HR and recruitment technologies, or in the wider world? What's the next big thing in your view?
Oh, crumbs! From a well, it's all about AI at the moment, isn't it? I mean, that's how that's evolving. Oh God!
Or is there anything?
So let me pause for a second on this. The bits I'm in, and this is a side thing. It's autonomy. I think is the way I'd go down the route of. So I do love. And this is, you have to cut and slice this in, and we'll talk about it properly in a second. But so the automation piece with ChatGPT and other services is going to simplify the mundane task. It goes back to Six Sigma, doesn't it? We're going to automate the mundane and focus on the interesting stuff. So the 80-20 rule will become more pronounced. Mm-hmm. So I think with these automation tools and AI tools, I'm hoping they're going to help us evolve slightly further, free up the time to be more creative in recruitment or HR. Think of things in different ways. For example, how you obtain new talent, attract new talent, how do you, whatever. I think that's...
So getting back to actually being a human.
Yeah, so it's like it's like all walks of life, isn't it? It's like 80% of your day is keeping your head above water, and the other 20% is really pushing forward. Mm-hmm. And I think I think we're on a tipping point where that 20% will start increasing. Yeah. So our evolution from an industry or as an individual, we're going to have that much more time to be creative, to think. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So actually solving more problems than actually giving them to ourselves.
Yeah. So you as a business owner, you'll be able to sit down and go, right, okay, we've done it like this for the last 20 years, and it's worked really successfully. And we've made incremental changes, etc. But actually, is there a step change coming up we've not really thought about? And I've always said that I think professional services and recruitment in particular are on that cusp of a significant step change. I thought it was about 8 years ago, but I think it's the next 5 years thereabouts. In the same way that the banking and financial industry went through a step change with online banking and retail going. So I think there's a step coming through here, and that will evolve in the next few years. That's going to be super exciting to see, I think.
Okay.
Me personally, I think there's a lot of work and energy. I think that's going to be the next thing for us.
To keep obviously the light switched on.
Yeah, I think this whole thing around, and this is not to do with this, but battery technology is absolutely amazing at this point in time. Mm-hmm. I think hydrogen is amazing technology at this point in time. I think we're going to have. Let me just phrase this in my head. So it's almost like if you take the utility services where we've got our crumbs. Sorry, bear with me a second. It mirrors technology. So when technology first started, it was all centralized, mainframes, etc., blah, 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 blah. And then we ended up with this distributed network and cloud-based technology where we're all isolated, etc., and we can do our own thing. So we're not centralized. Ironically, with new data lakes coming on board, you could argue that we're heading back into that neck of the woods. It's a bit like music; it all comes around, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of stuff with utilities at the moment where we've had utility type services, power, electric, etc., being centralised, and I think the bit that I'm interested in watching myself is how that's getting decentralised. So how you run your business off grid is not the right word to use, but how you can be self-sustaining.
Self-sufficient. Yeah.
Self-sufficient. I think that's a personal interest of mine at the end of the day.
I think one of the coolest things I've seen recently, which makes, again, going back to common sense, is why is not every open air car park covered with solar panels?
The French do it, aren't they?
It's just being rolled out all over the place at the moment.
Yeah.
Why a car park that's got 300 spaces hasn't got 300 charging points for electric cars, which is self-serviced by the solar panels, which is covering the whole car park, keeping it cool and self-generating for itself.
And more importantly, it's
mind-blowing, right? Simple.
Simple, easy equation, and the extra value add there stops birds shitting on your car.
So we just ruined one industry, but we've self-sufficiently charged the cars, kept up the electricity supply for that local area.
Yeah.
Because it's open space, it's wasted ground.
True. Let me ask you a question.
Go on.
So, from a technology point of view, what has been your frustrations when growing your organisation, and being mindful that we always have to be mindful about P&L and budgets, etc.
Yeah.
What's been that one thing that's
the ability for systems purchased to be amended without the need of a developer or cost of additional humans to actually do it, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, it does.
So where the word SaaS, obviously, that started getting thrown around, 5 years ago plus?
A few years ago now. Yeah.
From your point, you were known for a lot longer, and you probably were known for something else. Yeah. But for the ability for the technology to actually adapt with the changing conditions is where I think if you talk to anyone in recruitment who have been in a certain business for a long time with the single database, it's generally been sat on a hard drive somewhere. It's been in-house. It's never been cloud-based. And then this fear and perception of going cloud-based, that normally says cost, time, and are we going to lose all our data?
So break that into two things. One is, if you host it in a cloud or a physical USB, that's the physical hosting side, and there's pros and cons to both. But I think what you're talking about is you typically used to buy a piece of software, you shove it on a CD-ROM, and you install it, and 15 years later you might do it again.
Correct.
Yesteryear, without a shadow of a doubt. And some, let's be honest, some recruitment professional services firms are still in that vibe. It kind of works for us, it's all okay. Typically SaaS-based organisations, SaaS-based products.
What does SaaS stand for?
Oh God, no, don't say that to me. That's like SaaS and PaaS. It's service as a... software as a service. Sorry, there you go.
Software as a service.
Software as a service. Oh God, and then
it's a good one, isn't it? Just caught you out there.
Yeah.
So for everyone who's listening to this or watching this, Adam has a hangover today. He was out at Ascot yesterday and didn't get home till 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I got a cheeky message from him saying, "Are we still meeting at 10 o'clock today?" I went, "Yes." Okay.
But I made you a bacon sandwich.
You did make me a bacon sandwich, and we've drunk coffee. So if that has thrown you. It's sat in your brain somewhere.
Yeah,
and to be fair, before we went into this, we discussed how simple things like remembering people's names that you've been around for 20 years is becoming harder.
Yeah.
Big for me. Yeah. Sorry, we digressed.
No, that's all right. So
but cool. SaaS, we've got to that point.
Yeah. But then, what we've got to get used to is incremental changes. So big change, software 1, 2, 3, 4, but you want it to be done quarterly. And you want the owners of the platform or the software to be moving it forward continuously.
And it comes back to the trust piece.
Yeah. And to your point about not having developers working for you, in certain organisations where you want to be a bit more, get developers involved and start tweaking and understanding how you're going to differentiate yourself from a top line point of view than the bottom line. But in most organisations, no, it's low code, no code configuration. Your supplier should be going, hey, listen, there's a new piece of technology coming out that we're bringing into our system. Would you like to have a look at it and form an opinion on it for us? That'd be fantastic. And move you forward slowly. It's almost like dripping new services into you at a rate that you can consume to enhance your business.
Yeah. But that's where I think the problem with, I talk from a small business point of view, which we are, is that, as you've highlighted earlier, we are everything to everything. And we're the one person to everything and to everyone. So we've got, and that's where we go to 80-20 split.
Yeah.
My brain is 80% all the time on the business.
Yeah.
And I've only got 20% capacity to obviously probably think about what you do as a business and flip it the other way around. You're 80% technology, 20% everything else. And this is where finding a partner or someone you can actually just pick the phone up to and just go, I don't get it, without them talking to you in a language that you're really not getting, and you do it. And let's be fair, we do it a lot in this world, is we nod and go, yeah, I get that. Get up to the call and go, I have no fucking idea what that's about. I've no fucking idea.
Yeah, we call them nodding dogs. And you have and this goes back to, again, it comes back to the crayons. Put someone in a situation where they can feel comfortable asking a stupid question. Ask a few stupid questions yourself. It's like, I'm learning about you as much as you're learning about me. And you can sit in big boardrooms in the city, and there's lots of guys in there. I mean, I have worn a suit in my life. And they're sitting there like a massive presentation going on, and everyone's doing this. Are they taking it in? Are they not a hope in hell. Not a hope in hell. And you end up in this false situation that everyone's sort of agreeing in the room. It's like, what do you agree to? I don't fucking know. And before you know it, you're a couple of million quid in, and it's like, well, what have we delivered? Fuck all.
And that's the problem.
Fuck all.
So take that from a small business point of view. 2 million quid is probably the turnover in some of these companies yearly. And we have budgets of maybe no idea. And that's the problem. We don't know how sometimes these things are going to cost out. Yeah. And that's where, in the scary part, when you go back to our what is our biggest problems, it's how far into it before it actually works.
Yeah. Well, that's where you've got to be really careful. And this is where you've got to sit down and forget the technology piece for a bit and start talking about your business and understand where you're going, what your target operating model looks like, and what the ROIs you're looking to achieve in the future. And actually then have a sensible conversation. Is that piece of technology right for you now? It's not going to serve you any purpose. It's the old saying, isn't it? It's like you can spend $14 million taking a pen to space, or use a bloody pencil. It's doing the same thing at the end of the day. And that's where sometimes technologists and people in my sort of roles sometimes get wrapped up in, this is really wicked. We can take a pen to the moon. But that 14 million quid, we could have spent that elsewhere, grown something else, done something else, whatever it may be. But it's horses for courses, I guess.
So let's finish up. What is the future of 17 Oranges? Where do you want to be going forward as a business?
It's really simple. When we set out 17 Oranges, it's like we want to work with like-minded people, clients. We've got a culture of, dare I say it, fun. It's like we enjoy what we do, which is it's easier said than done sometimes. So I'd love to see 17 grow and scale, find some really cool clients to work with going forward, and longer term relationships.
So is that UK and international, or UK and predominantly?
My whole world's been international up till recently. So yeah, we have international clients now. We've got guys and girls in Canada. We just finished a major program in the US, and we've worked with guys in Germany. So ironically, when we kicked off 17, we were purely international. It took us a while to get our UK clients. So yeah, I'd love it to see to a point where it's scaled to a point where we're comfortable working internationally, more people on board. Yeah, all that kind of bollocks at the end.
That's probably a really good way to end.
Yeah.
So Adam, how do we find you if we want to find out more about you and 17 Oranges? LinkedIn
is an easy place to find me.
And you're Adam Gibson.
Adam Gibson, Adam M. Gibson, Matthew. Website 17oranges.com. We'll find us one way or another. I do have to change my picture on the LinkedIn, funnily enough. Midlife crisis, part 12, long hair. Now it's gone. I'm grown up again. So I've got to. That's the quickest way to find us.
That's always very funny. So thank you very much.
More than welcome. Anytime.
Awesome.